Hi, I want to respond to another great question on the Tim Freak forum, which a lot of people have made comments on already, but I'm just going to stick with the initial question and hope that helps. I'm going to read it out because that's a great way in. It says this: according to the book, that's my book Soul Story, my new one, when we attain moksha, nirvana, enlightenment after death, we do not dissolve in the ocean of God, becoming one with it. But how can that be reconciled with the dozens of mystical Gnostic texts which seem to suggest just the opposite? Is it possible to put forward some small interpretation or explanation of this ancient mystical idea which claims we will be dissolved and become one with the ocean? That idea can be found in Advaita, Zen, Sufism, Gnosticism, etc. It is found in lots of different mystical traditions. Have they simply got it wrong? Thank you. Well, okay, yeah, there's a few little things that are useful to say. First of all, it's interesting, isn't it? This resistance, which we all have, to the idea that these ancient, profound traditions we respect could be wrong. That itself is worth being conscious of, because if I said, oh, I've been looking at medicine from the 1st century BC, and I think it's wrong, no one would be shocked. We'd go, oh yeah, well, nearly all of it was wrong. They used to bleed people and thought it was humours and all sorts of stuff. We've moved well on from there, which is why we're living 3 or 4 times as long, and kids don't die within, a very short time, and so on. But with spirituality, the old is good. Why is that? Now, of course, the old can be good, and there can be truths which are perennial. So I'm not knocking it. I'm just questioning that, to be conscious of it. Because my sense for myself is that everything is evolving. Everything. Including culture, and that means including spirituality. So what we see is that a particular form of spirituality emerges at a certain time and has a certain feel to it. And it's fairly universal across all these different human cultures. And I think it's very natural. And what happens is that for any of us, when we first wake up to that profound oneness, it feels like, oh my God, this is reality. And it is a deep reality. We found the oneness of being, spirit, whatever you call that. And then we lose it, usually, because we can't sustain that, because the passivity in the past pulls us back to less emergent states of consciousness. We can't hold that deeper consciousness. So there's a natural feeling of, oh, I was there and now I've lost it, and I've lost it because I've been pulled back into this lesser state of separateness. So this is the problem, this state of separateness. I need to get rid of that, and then I can be permanently in this. And that leads to two things. One, this constant attack on humanity, the ego, the separate self, and a philosophy of it was once okay and I've lost it. There's this very negative view in most spirituality that we've fallen from a state, because when we wake up it feels familiar. Oh, I know this. This is where I belong. So I've fallen from this into this lesser state. Life is an illusion. Life is a prison. The body's a tomb. All of these things which are very common. Now, but it's a phase. It's a phase you go through, and then I think as you mature, you realize, oh, it's not like that. That actually this becoming a separate self is what's enabled you to be conscious, and then eventually conscious of oneness through the separateness, through the individuality. And far from being in the way, it's a foundation from which you become conscious of the deeper states. And in my philosophy of emergent spirituality, I've enlarged that completely across the whole of 13.8 billion years of evolution, leading to the emergence of these deeper states. So what I'm saying is not that I'm saying we don't dissolve into the love light, or that's not desirable to, because it's the individuality which makes us conscious, but rather we commune as one in the love light. That by becoming conscious of the oneness as distinct individuals, we create together this higher state of being. Not instead of the individuality, but through it. And that process, which is happening now, continues in the after-death state. And that this older idea that we need to dissolve is a phase of evolution, cultural evolution, where we think, oh, we've got to get rid of this to experience the oneness, rather than, no, we need to strengthen the individuality so we become more and more conscious, more and more formed as distinct souls to enable us to become deeply conscious of spirit, of the potentiality of oneness. And through that, we can enter and stay longer in this deep oneness. So it is an addendum to the traditional view, in a way. It's going, okay, that was good, that was the beginnings of an understanding of where we're at. How about we take that further? We've moved on since then. So we can respect that view and then move on and see something deeper. And in that way, I think we can see that we don't have to hold on to this very negative view of what life is. Once we have an evolutionary story rather than a story of the fall, then we can see that the thing we're in isn't a mistake, it isn't a problem, it's actually an evolutionary process through which the greater, the deeper, the more emergent comes last. The greater builds on the more primitive. Both of them so here I'm saying, look, the greater understanding which I'm suggesting, which in a way does go the past is wrong, it just says we can do this better, that's built on the past. Without those people developing all that those ideas, I couldn't say what I'm saying. But it didn't end with them. They themselves built on what came before. We must do the same, pass it on to the next generation. But each of us taking it deeper in our understanding. And that's happening also with the process of us as individuals. We're developing as distinct individuals through the evolutionary process, as individual souls, becoming more and more conscious until we're conscious of the ground of being, the oneness of spirit. And if we enter that in the after-death state, we experience as the clear light of potentiality, the clear light of the void, as it's often known, emptiness. But not by dissolving into it as if our lives have just been a complete waste of time and forget about it, it's all finished, gone, an illusion ended. Not that, but rather something achieved, a new level arrived at through the process of individuation, through life. And we need to return to life to continue that process. And that's a view which resonates much more deeply for me personally, and I offer it to you to contemplate and see if it resonates for you.